What is going on, guys? It is Jim and welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, it's another bright sunny day here in Florida, which has gotten me inspired to come out and do some more modifications to our V8 chassis WRX. With that being said, I kind of want to stick to the rear of the car since we kind of got the party going back here. I don't want to just kind of leave it alone. I want to kind of do some more things back here that really tie the whole look together. So we've got a couple of parts that we're going to install today. One being our Noble tag bucket in a gloss black or piano black. To tie that together as well, we have our rear diffuser from Noble, also in gloss black, and I think those two pieces are really going to tie this whole look together in the rear. And then on top of all of those things, we have a Noble Pro 3 F1 light. Now I know what you might be thinking. Jim, I'm pretty sure you have an F1 light on the car already. And you would be correct. But the light that's on the car is the Noble Pro 2 light. So it has two functions. One is for daytime running light, and other one is for the brake light feature, where our new Pro 3 light has 3 features. The two that I just spoke about, it also has an additional reverse light, which, believe it or not, I think can actually help with the function that we have going on here, because although I do love our tinted tail lights back here, full disclosure, the reverse lights are kind of wimpy. So I'm really excited to be able to put something else onto the back of the car that is going to let people know that I'm backing up out of my spot at Mach 1 with, no consideration for anybody. All of the parts that are going to be installed on the car today are pretty simple. It's nothing more than really some sticky tape and or a couple of self-tappers. The only real difficult thing I would say that's just a little bit more than a screwdriver is actually going to be the wire up for our F1 light. Now, because this one already has an F1 light, why don't I just reuse the harness? Well, unfortunately, I can't, because this is going to be a 3-wire. We have a ground, a power for our daytime running, and a power for our brake. The new Pro 3 light is going to be a 4-wire harness and an additional power for that backup light. So where I could probably reuse the bracketry system that's in here and maybe the connector at the tail light, I'm still going to have to run the harness from top to bottom. So at that point, I might as well just replace it with everything that is new. So take a final look at the rear of our car, because it's the last time it's going to look like this. I'm super excited to put some parts on. Let's go. We're going to kick things off pretty simple with our tag bucket. Now, since my tag is just attached with these 2 Phillips head screws, we're pretty much just going to remove that, place this up into the spot, which is actually really nice because the camera here for our backup camera, there's a nice little recess. So this kind of keeps everything locked into place, and then we're just going to attach this by putting our screws back on. I've also seen people kind of use a little bit of the 3M tape, maybe around the edge, to help kind of seal everything off here or keep the edges kind of nice and flat. But we're going to test fit it without the 3M first, just to kind of see how everything goes. I will tell you the 3M probably also offers a little bit of a paint buffer between the piece and the bucket. So if you were to ever want to remove this piece, you could do that without having any sort of irritation from our plastic here ever rubbing up against it. But I will tell you, it might compromise the flush fit that you would have by not having the tape. So we're going to fit it first without the tape and then see how I feel. I'm also not a fan of this chrome tag bracket, so well, that's got to go. Well, because of my paper tag, everything's not really fitting all that great here. So maybe I do have to put a tag frame on it just to kind of hold everything nice and tight. But luckily I do have a different tag frame that's not all chromed out. So here we go. I have my replacement tag frame bracket. It says "Got THC," and it's not what you think. It's Tint House Customs, who, if you follow my lady Krista, she has the Buckle Up Buttercup Bronco. They did the whole wrap and PPF thing on her vehicle, and that thing looks fantastic. I love that truck, and they did such a great job. But I also have an abundance of tag frames from them. So luckily that came in handy today. We've got the tag frame bucket mocked up. I will tell you 2 things. Number one, just from only attaching this from the top here with our 2 screws, that does kind of put a lot of pressure on that top edge and kind of pushes the bottom out just a little bit. So I think I'm actually going to go back, remove the bucket, apply a piece of 3M along the bottom edge here, and then try to reapply and see how that goes. And then my other kind of small issue is actually with my tag frame, it doesn't quite fit fully inside the bucket. So I'm not sure I can really use a tag frame, especially one that maybe has such a thick border. I'm not sure this works with, or this would be a problem with all tag frames. But I think if I just had the metal tag attached, it would fit in. But unfortunately, with my big, thick tag frame, it does not. So here I have my 3M and my adhesion promoter and my rag. So I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this down free of dirt and debris. Then on top of that, I'm going to apply a dab of my adhesion promoter onto the rag. Now what I do like is pretty much anything that Noble sells that comes with 3M has this adhesion promoter in the kit. So I really enjoy it. It really does wonders for helping this stuff chemically bond and keep the 3M on the pieces while we are pretty much for the lifetime of the vehicle. Believe me, I've worked with this stuff a lot, and if properly installed on the vehicle, this stuff is pretty difficult to remove. So you really shouldn't be worried about it flying off if all of your prep work and your weather conditions are up to par. Since our bucket is going to be secured with the screws from the tag, I don't think I need like an overabundance of 3M here. Just something that kind of helps keep the back of this thing attached to the trunk lid while the screws are kind of busy pulling this towards the top. Finally, we'll prep our trunk surface where I believe any of this is going to be coming in contact, and then we're just going to peel our red protective film off and then reinstall our tag bucket. So as you can tell, I'm missing my tag. No, that's not a mistake. Yes, I did on purpose. So because I'm using the 3M now and I want a good strong bond here, I don't want to put too much pressure on the screws while the 3M is still adhering to the body. So, you know, if I start cranking these things down here, I'd be afraid that it would still continue to pull this up before all of our adhesion has really kind of set into the trunk lid. So we're going to let that cure for about 20 minutes or so, then we're going to come remove the screws, put the tag back on, move on to the next thing. There we go. We are fully locked in, and if you take a look, there's no more gap on the sides and back of this. So I really think that the 3M was probably a good idea. Also, it doesn't really look like it like protrudes much further off the back of the trunk. So I'm really happy with the fitment. I'm really happy with how everything is stuck, and I think we're gonna have a lot of good luck with this piece. Not to mention, I just love the look. I think this changes the whole look of the back of the car, and I think that in conjunction with our diffuser, I'm super psyched. I can't wait to get this stuff on. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I should probably deal with the F1 light first. Because I put a few of these on, I just know this in advance. So our rear valance there, or our rear diffuser, is actually gonna kind of block off the bottom under here. So if you are looking to do this kind of work, I would definitely recommend doing the F1 light first, or I'm gonna put this diffuser on, and I'm gonna have to take it right back off when I go to do my F1 light. So work smarter, not harder. Let's get to putting the light in. First thing we're gonna do is get into our trunk area. Back here with our new plate cover. Then I'm gonna have to figure out which one of these lights has been pre-wired for our F1, because I just don't want more harnesses under here than really need to be. I will tell you the most common thing is they will be tapped into our driver's tail light over our passenger tail light, but who knows, anybody could be up to anything. Here is our harness. I did find it in the driver's side tail light, or behind the driver's side tail light. So it looks like there's already kind of a jumper harness here from our factory connector to where that is. And so I think we're just going to pull this whole thing out and replace it. Oh, speaking of which, I was just talking about this.
What are you doing?
Hey, I was just talking about your wrap. So it's funny you just kind of pulled up.
Yeah, just got home.
Nice. Awesome. This thing is great, isn't it?
Yeah, what
You still?
are you doing?
I'm putting some stuff on the WRX here. Look at that.
Okay, what is it? Let me see.
Here, come back. Well, yeah. So as of right now, I've just got the tag bucket on. Yep, and then on the table over here, we've got our rear diffuser and our Pro 3 light.
Okay. Is this the one that blinky blinks and does reverse and all that?
Yeah, that's the one.
Wow, I like the look. I like the dark gray with the gloss black.
Me too.
I think that's a good decision.
Yeah, it's going to come together.
Yeah.
High five. Awesome.
Okay, I'm going inside.
All right. Alrighty. Back to wiring. Our wiring's disconnected, so let's get underneath the car and remove our light. Luckily, we can keep the bracketry and all that. Then we're just gonna pull the harness and everything through. Then I'm gonna have to fish down our new harness from the driver's tail light to back here, which really isn't that big of a deal. There's a lot of like empty space behind the bumper. So you can either take like a couple of zip ties and zip them together if you got something like that, and just kind of feed it down and find it and then pull it over to the center. And then just make sure you secure all of the harness and everything so that you ain't got a bunch of danglies under here, you know, just catching on things or burning up when it touches the exhaust. To get behind here is pretty simple. There's two plastic push pins that you can release and kind of get a little bit of extra squeeze out of this bumper, and then you can pretty much get a 10mm wrench up in here to crack the two bolts loose. I like to take them out the rest of the way by hand so I don't have to worry about ratcheting and all that kind of stuff. But here we go, it's coming out, I think. There it is. There we go, got our Pro 2 light out. And it feels like this harness might be zip tied to something back behind there, so I might head one up to the trunk again and see if I can't get it out from the top instead of just pulling it from the bottom. There we go. Wasn't zip tied, but it did get hung up on this connector here, and clearly I wasn't going to pull all of this through from that side, but I'm not going to need this anymore. Like I had mentioned, our new light comes with some new harnessing. So this is actually a breakout harness that goes onto the factory wiring and between the factory wiring from the tail light to the harness. It's kind of a replacement for all of this nonsense here where you have to tap and do whatnot. So this part I like a lot because we can just kind of tee it in, and then we already have our connector for our new harness already attached. So that pretty much makes wiring a breeze. But as you can tell, I kind of figured out the trick. And the trick is to remove this stuff from the trunk, because believe it or not, there is a hole, which I'm not sure you're going to be able to see, that goes in from our trunk liner here, or right below our plastic trunk liner, right where my finger is. There's actually a hole here that goes to the outside of the vehicle, and that drops almost vertically down right behind the bumper, and then you can just kind of grab your harness end over to the center. And as you can tell, the top has just been fed behind our felt here, running along here underneath our felt, and then straight up and out. So once we wire everything in, put our harness and connect it together, we're just going to zip tie any of this excess here. So once again, it's just not dangling, and then we can put all of our trunk liner and spare tire stuff back in, and we can close this up because we will be done inside the trunk. We got the new connector harness in and all of our zip ties done, and just take a look at how much nicer this looks now than the harness that was in here. So this plug and play harness is really doing its job. I'm super psyched at just how nice everything looks back here instead of a whole bunch of wires just jumbled up, and you know, you still have some butt connectors that could come undone and all that. All this is pretty solid. So with that being said, we can just kind of put this back, put everything back in, and we're done inside the car. Now we're going to plug our harness in, bolt our light up, and then check for functionality before we seal this whole thing off with our diffuser. Okay, well, it looks like it worked. And like I said before, with these aftermarket taillights, I mean, the reverse backup lights are just kind of wimpy. So it's really nice to have an additional light here since I took away some of the functionality from the factory taillight. So let's talk about the functionality that the Pro 3 light comes with. As you may or may not know, it is an additional brake light, and it can just come on just like a normal brake light would. And as you depress the pedal, it comes on, it flashes one time at you and then stays lit, just like your normal brake lights. Now, what you can do is do the F1 style, which is every time you hit the brake, it kind of does a little burst of 3 or 5 flashes before it then holds red. Also, on top of that, to not just annoy everybody behind you, you have to come off the brake for an entire 5 seconds in order for it to flash again. So it's not just constantly flashing at you if you're in, let's just say, stop and go traffic. Now you can change that function by depressing the brake, holding and depressing the brake, and then flashing your lights 3 full cycles. 1, 2, 3. Now what that'll have done is changed our brake light back there from just 1 to our F1 burst. Now there is also an additional function with the Pro 3 because this has a reverse light. So if you put the car in reverse and activate that light on the back, we can do the same 1, 2, 3 cycles. And now we've changed the reverse light from just an on light as you put the car in reverse, or it will do the F1 blink before it holds a solid white. Now, I will tell you, that's kind of difficult to show you on the video because I've already tried to do that with the camera, and unfortunately the frame rate just makes it look like it's constantly flashing all the time, so it doesn't give a great representation of what's happening. But I can promise you, if you do this right with a Pro 3 light, you might just want to have a friend say, yes, it's working, or now try it again. But it definitely is a cool function and can be done. Lastly, for our installs today, we have the Noble diffuser, and I think this thing is really going to tie the whole back end of the vehicle together from all of the accent pieces that we've been doing. And as you can kind of see, it kind of ducks down here and encases our new F1 brake light, and I think it's just going to bring a lot more accent to the bottom of the car, especially with our tag bucket. Once again, we did a couple other touches the other week with the exhaust and our arches, and I think this is really going to bring the whole thing together so that I'm pretty happy with the way the rear of the car looks, you know, for now. So the way our diffuser gets attached is pretty simple. It is with 6 self-tapping screws, 4 in line on the back here, and then 2 kind of near the front. Now I will tell you, these 2 holes right here actually go into rubber grommets that are underneath the vehicle, so they don't actually get extremely tight. So what I have done on previous builds here is, although they provide you with 6 self-tapping pieces of hardware, a lot of times I will drill the hole in our rubber grommets here, and then I'll actually use a through bolt that I can sandwich together, and I'm a lot happier with it making sure that it's going to stay with the vehicle and at no point in time, you know, come off. It's going to be very difficult to pull those rubber grommets out of the bottom of the car, but with just some self-tappers, I'm not 100% psyched on that, but you know, a little bit of ingenuity will go a long way. So I thought I was done with the trunk, but obviously I am not. Since I did have kind of an issue with the rubber grommets here, like I had mentioned before, I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what I'm actually going to do. So the 4 self-tappers go into the bottom of our little slats here, so that's pretty well secure. But as far as the 2 up closer to the front, they pretty much, the holes in that diffuser sit dead center in between this grommet and this grommet. So like I said, just kind of drilling self-tappers into that rubber is just, I don't know, it doesn't put a lot of confidence in me with this thing staying on or catching any kind of wind or, you know, anything like that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to drill a hole here and here, and then with a little bit longer piece of threaded hardware, I'm actually going to run this up from the bottom, and then attach a nut here with some Loctite. So I don't have to crank down on tightening these. I just kind of want to sandwich everything there so that it's not just kind of flapping in the front. So we don't have to squish the rubber or do anything like that. And then the Loctite, once it settles, is going to have a nice tight seal on this bolt so that it doesn't back out or fall off. So there we have it. It is all done. All of our mods are on the car today. We had our tag bucket, we had our F1 light, and our rear diffuser. And I gave you kind of a look inside of what it is to actually install these parts on your car. I will tell you, I mean, full disclosure, with filming and doing all this kind of stuff, it probably took me about 2.5 hours to do everything. If I wasn't filming, I could probably have done most of this stuff within an hour, no problem. But I've also been pretty well prepped on what it is to actually install these things, so I was pretty well aware of any issues that I was going to run into beforehand. So hopefully this video can help you guys out, that if you're interested in buying some of the stuff, that you could be more physically and mentally prepared for installing it. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking in order to install these parts with confidence. A lot of times they don't necessarily come with, you know, installation, like step-by-step instructions, but it's really not all that bad. A little bit of test fitting and a little bit of spare hardware when it comes into play is your friend, and you will definitely be thankful that you have it. But for more videos just like this, plus thousands more, be sure to hit up importimageracing.com for all the best deals on the web and in the world. And like always, subscribe.